Good evening. Please be aware that we have a new public video photography section located in the back corner of this room. We have it marked with a sign. Anyone who would like to record can do so from there or from your seat. We ask that you please do not come up to the podium to record the speaker. Thank you. A quick reminder also of the norms. 1, use respectful language. 2, be respectful of all speakers. 3, do not cause disruptions. 4, adhere to time limits. We have nothing to report out for close at this point, and we will now move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We at this time will have our student representatives come forward. That's part of the meeting. We will call for Isabella Moreno or Peyton Wilson from Surfside.
Good evening, President Alvarez, members of the board, and Superintendent Vitale. My name is Peyton Wilson, and I'm a senior at Surfside High School. Welcome to a new school year. I'm pleased to start the year off as a student representative from Surfside. This will likely be my last board meeting presentation as I'm graduating in October and off to my next steps. Thank you for the opportunity to serve OUSD in Surfside. Now on to Surfside News. Surfside is a unique place. Our campus houses 2 schools, including kindergarten through 12, independent study, as well as a high school direct instruction structure. There are many reasons students like Surfside. Here are a few. Every month, the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce celebrates a rising star from each of our high schools. Rising stars are seniors who overcome challenging circumstances and are on the path to college or career and exhibit the attributes of resilience and perseverance. Rising stars are honored at breakfast attended by the mayor, our OUSD board members, our superintendent, and other community leaders. They also have a chance to receive scholarships. Congratulations to us Howard for a rising star for September. We have many graduates completing their time here at Surfside, including myself. Everyone is very excited to get on to their next steps, and we wish the best for whatever they decide to do with the future. Throughout the year, Surfside offers 3 sports teams to choose from. Currently, we are in soccer season, then basketball, followed by football in the spring. Surfside's independent study students can play CIF sports on the El Camino and Oceanside High School teams as well. One of the unique features at Surfside is our Child Development Center. Any OUSD students with babies, regardless of whether they attend El Camino, Oceanside High, or Surfside, can drop off their babies in our Child Development Center. The student can then attend school worry-free as our fabulous team takes excellent care of the babies. Yes, even the administrators like Ms. Wilkins likes to drop by for a visit from time to time. Surfside's elementary program is striving, and the kids are excited to hop back in where they left off. We are learning new skills and accomplishing exciting achievements during their time here. Surfside offers an array of clubs and activities for students throughout the year. Here are a few of the clubs that are ramping up. We have Sewing Club, GSA, a Yoga Club, and a Breakfast Club for students that arrive early to school. More coming soon. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for giving me the time to speak with you all. Have a great evening.
We will now call forward Natalie Lopez from El Camino High School.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Board President Dr. Alves, the rest of the board members, and Superintendent Dr. Vitale and her executive staff who were present this evening and giving me the time to speak. I'm Natalie Lopez, the ASB president and the student representative from El Camino High School. First off, a Wildcat Scholar highlight. We want to thank our Wildcat football program for welcoming the Tafuna Warriors football team all the way from America Samoa. For many, it was their first time on an airplane and the first time off the island. They were able to come to Southern California for 2 weeks and a way for them to see what it's like in the States and give them the education opportunities. While here, our amazing community came together to welcome them and only as a community and show them what the community of Oceanside can do. Also, we had a Friday night football game, which resulted in the El Camino Wildcats coming down with the win. And we want to thank you guys, the Board of Education, for sending our cross-country team all the way to Galveston Beach Run in Texas. Out of 200 runners, our senior Omar Reyes led the race with a very impressive time of 15 minutes for a first place win. He finished 35 seconds ahead of our next runner. And then our boys team took first overall out of 70 teams. So thank you guys. Around campus, our PALS class has introduced Freshman Fridays, which welcomes our newest Wildcats around school, hosting fun activities and fun games. We also had a back to school night this past Thursday and welcomed all the parents and guardians to meet their students' teachers and understand what is going around at school. And then ASB hosted our annual club day where students were able to sign up for all the clubs we offer. We are proud to say we offer 50 different clubs available on campus. And then also we have our greenhouse garden, which allows students of moderate to severe special education to work on the garden that we have. Okay. And then congratulations to EC alumni Chris Brooks for making the 53-man Miami Dolphins roster.
We will now have Lily Musil from Oceanside High School.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Vitale, President Alvarez, and other board members. I'm Sammy Vences, your ASB Vice President.
And I'm Liliana Musil, the Community Relations Commissioner.
And here's what's been going on at Oceanside. We've been having Pirate Night for freshmen the day before school to find the classes, meet their teachers, back to school night, and ASB Spirit Week, and our first Oceanside blood drive. Here's our all-school assembly to welcome back all the new Pirates and introduce our fall sports and just have fun and great games. To kick it off with sports, we have our JV and varsity girls golf team that are both undefeated, and our volleyball and tennis team not that far behind. Here we have back to school night, welcoming back old and new Pirates back on campus to have fun with food, performances, and clubs that they can sign up for.
To kick off the school spirit, Oceanside High School held our first Spirit Week, September 5th through the 8th, with some fun spirit days filled with like Twin Day, Teacher-Student Swap, and Frat versus Sorority. OHS's Health and Careers Academy recently had their first blood drive of the school year. The goal of the drive was to help students connect to the community, gain experience for their future profession, and be in a leadership role. We also had Love on a Leash to bring emotional support for students and staff as a friendly way to welcome everyone back. Leah Nance is a strong Pirate on and off the course. She is an outstanding academic performer and was just named one of the San Diego Union Tribune Athletes of the Week. Oceanside High School has many exciting upcoming events. On September 20th, OHS is hosting a career fair partnered with the Army. We also have the New York Coastal College Barrio Empowerment event on September 29th that features workshops, inspirational speakers, college fairs, and much more.
Thank you guys and have a great, blessed rest of your evening.
Just a quick note on E at this point, 2E. There was a piece missing on the, the agenda. The minutes were not there or posted. They will be corrected and posted on that, so I will call for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a first and I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll call for board reports at this time. Superintendent report, please.
Yeah, I have some super exciting news followed by an exciting video. First, I want to remind the board that we have an advanced placement class here at Cesar Chavez. It's 8th grade advanced placement, Spanish. And we had students take the test in May, and 14 of our 18 students scored a 3, 4, or 5. This is where I pause for applause. I want to remind you that means we have 8th grade students here in Oceanside that earned college credit by scoring a 3, 4, or 5 on that test. It is very rare to have advanced placement in the middle school, and we are in our 3rd year of having this advanced placement class here at Chavez. And one of our students took the Spanish Lit test and passed with a 4, and that is one of the hardest tests to pass that advanced placement offers. So congratulations. And we have 21 students enrolled this year, so we're very excited about that. This video that we're about to share, this will be broadcast out far and wide tomorrow. It's a thank you video to our voters, and we put this together to give people an idea of how their bond dollars are impacting our facilities. And because of the bond that was passed in 2020, Measure W, we're able to do incredible things for our schools, and it really helps us maximize our general fund dollars and create the best learning environments for our students. So the first part of the video is a before and after. So you'll see the school sites and how they were transformed, what they looked like before, and what was accomplished over the summer. And then at the very end, you'll see that there are 4 more schools in the queue for a full remodel. And most of this work is what was accomplished in the 8-week summer break. So with that, if you'll please begin our thank you video to the Oceanside voters for passing Measure W and also previous bonds as well. So I'm just going to mention that the colors are pretty muted on this video, so when it goes out tomorrow far and wide on social, please watch it, and you'll be more wowed, I promise.
Nancy?
I would just like to thank everyone for being here tonight and also draw attention to September being Attendance Awareness Month and the district's focus, Dr. Sparks and his team, and leading the efforts to increase attendance district-wide. And I know at every site there's a lot of effort to make sure students are at school every day. So let's continue that conversation year-round. And then September is also Suicide Prevention Month, so just focusing on the student mental health and making sure that we have supports at all of our sites so that students feel safe and welcome in their schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Eleanor?
For transparency, I need to report out that I'm now a member of several independent citizen law oversight committee, including the City of Oceanside, Maricopa Community College, and National School District, which is the national city, and currently the vice school chairman for the San Diego County Human Relations Commission. And that's my report.
Thank you, Eleanor. Mike?
Yeah, I attended the El Camino Wildcat football game against the team from Samoa, and it was a huge crowd there. I was just amazed that many people were there from now from Samoa. Obviously, they drew the whole community. It was an incredible night, and a great experience for those kids. I know.
Thank you. I don't have a report tonight. Okay. I have a couple of things. I want to thank our staff. We have worked very diligently, the staff has worked very diligently to make sure that our students are back in their seats this beginning of this year. And so over the summer and the end of last year, the conversations were had to be able to see how we could change and do things differently to be able to get students back into their seats. And over the summer, many phone calls were made, many house calls were made, and because of that, many students were back at school the beginning of this school year and are consistently now being back at school, which I want to make sure that we celebrate the staff and all those that are a part of that. Dr. Sparks and his team have diligently, along with TC, have made sure that this is something that, along with the community members, because we're working with OPE, OFD, the Parks and Recs, and so it's just a huge community effort to make sure that our students are actually back at school. And so thank you to all that are a part of that, because it is important for them to be successful. And with that, we went to a Unite luncheon and we're able to, again, see the community come together as a whole to be able to be there to support our students in their social and emotional needs as they're working to build a wellness center at OHS. And I want to thank them, or Unite as a whole, along with Dr. Sparks and Dr. Garrity, for reaching out to Unite and asking, or letting them know the needs that were going on at OHS. And we're having those conversations even for El Camino to show that these are needs that are across the district, and so that we can actually get support from the students on campus, so that they'll be on campus so that they can continue to be successful and have the support that they need on campuses. At this point also, I would like to ask for one of our students to come forward. His name is Bryce Stanford, and he, over the summer, was able to participate in a AWFS freshman competition for woodshop. He brought home first place. At this point, I would like to give Bryce a moment to share with us, and then I would like to present you with something after.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Vitale, Board President Alvarez, and all board members. Back in late 2022, my woodworking teacher asked me if I wanted to compete in a competition called Skills USA. I gladly accepted, and I had a great time doing it. While doing that competition, he asked me if I wanted to do another competition called AWFS Freshwood. AWFS one of the largest North American woodworking trade shows. And along with that, they do a student competition. They only hold this competition every 2 years, and it is highly competitive. While discussing ideas in different categories, which I might like and potentially do, he asked me what I would be interested in, and I told him that my parents were both they enjoyed record players and listening to them. So he said that I should do something with that, and then so I started to research ideas and think of stuff that we could use around the house. And so I came up with a mid-century modern record player cabinet. I knew that it would need some distinguishing features, so I would have slides, but they aren't here. But on the left-hand side, I have a waterfall mitered edge, and what waterfall means is the grain is continuous throughout the piece. Another distinguishing feature is I made the door frame, or the door face, out of using a CNC machine, which is a computer-controlled router. The entire piece is made out of one of them. To have my piece accepted by AWFS, I had to have all the pictures and questions that they wanted me to answer. So maybe I made first. At this point, my piece was one of 20 high school pieces that were accepted from approximately 175 submissions. I then spent the next 3 months sanding and tiring my arm out, but at the end I knew that it was all worth it. Just before AWFS, I sent my piece to the San Diego County Fair where it was showcased, and it took both first place and best of class there. I also won a scholarship from the San Diego Fine Woodworking Association for outstanding achievement in woodworking. Soon after, me and Mr. Z had to create a container to ship my piece to Las Vegas in, where the trade show is held in July, which is not very fun because this place is hot. I had to do that to ensure my project wasn't damaged from shipping. And a week later, I headed out to Las Vegas with my mom. And while at the competition, I met students from across the country and got to see their pieces, which were all amazing. I had two different interviews with Fine Woodworking Magazine and Skills USA. While at the competition, I met trade vendors and people in the industry who all congratulated me and encouraged me to continue with my passion for woodworking and encouraged me to have it as a potential career. At the end of the ceremony, or at the end of the show, the award ceremony took place, and I was in the cased goods category, which is like the cabinetry. After all the time and effort that I put into this piece, I was so excited and honored to hear that my name was the winner and where I was awarded first place. I won a $1,000 prize and a KCB software package. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed my journey.
Don't sit down yet. You were the star of one of our OUSD in 1 minute, and we happen to have it available, and we're going to show it to everybody today in the Board of Education. These are published every week. They're on our website and on our YouTube channel. And here's Bryce in action. So let's make sure we have some volume on this, and you'll see his work of art as well.
It's an award-winning piece of art created by OHS junior Bryce Sanford.
I love the color, I love the finish, and I love how it all looks clean.
This summer, Bryce's record player cabinet took first place at both the national competition in Las Vegas and the Del Mar Fair, winning him a total of $1,300.
Yeah, it felt really good, and made me think about it every year.
Bryce made the cabinet last year in woodshop in about 2 months.
Which is neat, help me out with a lot of stuff, and cook me everything, and share it.
And we were proud to see that one of our OHS students was able to make it to the top level.
Bryce is considering a career in engineering or architecture, but now has a solid backup plan.
I have hobbies, but it could definitely be a possible career in my future. Always a good option.
And that's your OSI USD in 1 minute.
I'd like to take a moment to thank his woodshop teacher, Mrs. Urieta, because he actually is a past winner in that same finalist. But he worked diligently, and I was able to see from the beginning to the end the process that happened with all of that. So we would like to award Bryce with an exceptional achievement award for recognition of award-winning craftsmanship. So if you would all come, and Mom, you want to come forward, please? One of the amazing things of our school district is our students. Now that we're back in school, the amazing things that they do, and along with just actually being back in school and working on their academics, is the different things that we have within our school district, which is obviously like woodshop. Then we have our arts programs and different things like that. We recently, in our wellness center that we're getting built by Unite, our students are actually did the mural that is in that building. And the muralist, who is a national muralist, was so proud of our students. And it was so amazing to hear just the feedback about our students and the amazing work that they did and the respect that they had and the passion that they had for the work that they were doing. So just hearing somebody that is not really here so much in our community or working with our students all the time, hearing the feedback from him about how amazing they were, the passion that they had and the work that they wanted to put into it, and how they wanted to kind of tweak things their way to make it their artwork, just like his Bryce has done in his stuff. You know, celebrating our students and the amazing gifts that they have, and making sure that they're here at school. So that's a huge commitment from our families. So I appreciate and applaud our families for making sure that your students are at school, supporting them and everything that you do for our staff as a whole, because you're there every day, supporting them, pushing them, wanting them to be successful. I thank you all, because it starts from home to here, because it is a village that makes our students amazing. So thank you all for that. We will now move forward to our CSEA report. No one from CSEA? Then we will move forward to ODA, please. Thank you.
You guys almost made me cry over that. I don't know if I'm going to be okay here. So, good evening, President Alvarez, trustees, Dr. Vitale, executive cabinet, colleagues, and community members. Raquel, I wanted to send you a special thank you for showing up to that classroom at El Camino and supporting that teacher. That really means a lot. And for all the messages from the school board and the superintendent, we appreciate you a lot. So we're about a month in. I'm already tired. I don't know, are you? I can imagine you are, but we have a long year ahead of us, so I'd like to focus on some of the things coming up. We are getting ready to start another bargaining session between OUSD and OTA. And once again, I would imagine that we may be villainized during public comment for negotiating to get a fair wage. There's always that word fair that some people don't agree with, for all of our teachers and support staff. Despite what some community members might think, what we ask for is fair compensation. We look at the financial health of the school district and negotiate to increase a better total compensation package for our members. We are reasonable and responsible with our asks, and when the district needed to streamline and prioritize in order to get out of qualified status, we didn't organize around and seek a double-digit pay increase that a lot of districts around us obtained. We worked together in order to get out of that. Historically, we have always worked together and advocated for fiscal solvency and responsibility in Oceanside. However, with that being said, I won't apologize for asking for a lion's share of the money that is provided by taxpayers for the education of the OUSD students. You heard me right. You see, we are in a people business. The majority of OUSD's money outside of the facilities that house us the curriculum that our board adopts and provides, and other tools to engage learners more equitably and efficiently. Everything else should be spent on people. People who wake up early so that they can prepare for the students in their classroom. People who meet those students as they come on campus. The people that check in with them as they enter the classroom doors. The people who support the student with food that they may not have had, or the Band-Aid that fell off between home and school, or some that even need life-saving intervention as we saw last year. The people who kneel beside a student as they struggle with cognitive dissonance and push to grasp a concept. The people who step back and out of the spotlight as those very same students celebrate their academic success. People that help with woodworking. The people that spend time after school exploring and navigating new curriculum so that they can be ready for those same students when they come back the next day. And the people that lie in bed at night, I'm not the only one, hoping that all those students have not only a designated area to study and do homework, but also a safe, healthy, and accepting place to shelter each night. And I know that you know, a lot of them don't. We know it too. Despite some of the rhetoric that I've heard, the way that we invest in our students is through our people. I spent time looking through our unaudited actuals, which I know Dr. Norman will go through later. I am pleasantly surprised to see that the ending fund balance was much larger than projected, even as recently as the second interim financial report. Here's a fun fact. Our team, not me, I'm not smart enough at this, we have a team, keeps an internal document that includes the total for the ending fund balance that goes back as soon as it's first included in the financial reports. For 22-23, it was first projected that we would be $19.9 million in the hole at this time. Then it was projected that we would be $4.4 million, ending fund balance only, $7.7 million, $4.2 million, $17 million, $20 million, $46 million, $60 million, $73 million, $55 million, and after the unaudited actuals were complete, there's $101 million in that ending fund balance, and we're really happy to see that. I do understand that total includes what has already been committed and assigned, and it isn't as though that money is totally negotiable. I have been doing this job for 28 years, and I understand it's not that simple. But I'm asking for a paradigm shift. Instead of saying we have committed and assigned this amount, and we have X amount left over, and we will pass on as much of it to you as we can. As you can imagine, crumbs from a leftover sandwich doesn't fill a person up. Instead, I would love for our district to approach funding differently. OUSD could budget in a way that shows they are setting aside money to fairly compensate and provide health and benefits for our employees. These very people I referred to earlier. Let's budget for the people who work with the students that we are all here for first, and then budget for the next big thing and its associated changes and implementations. As I said before, and I'll say it again, the working conditions that we fight for are the very learning environments for our students. So, as we gear up to meet for bargaining on the 18th, I'm encouraging our school board to give the permission and latitude to your negotiators to place the people of OUSD first, so that we can continue to make the students of OUSD our priority. Thanks.
Thank you. We will now move forward to public comments on agendized items. During this portion of meeting, individual speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes total to address the board on agenda items, including items on the consent agenda. However, the total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes. While the total time per speaker for a given topic may be slightly reduced in certain circumstances, all persons wishing to address the board will have a meaningful opportunity to do so during this meeting. An individual may only turn in one public comment card for the public comments on agendized items, which may be submitted at any time up until the public comments on agendized items has been closed. I will also just remind you the board norms, use respectful language, be respectful of all speakers, do not cause disruptions, and adhere to time limits.
So we have 6 on agenda items to comment. We'll start with Paul Hanich.
Well, first of all, I'd like to commend the board for addressing the issue of grooming in the school district. And I'd like to specifically speak to section 6 and 7. Joseph, can you bring me my paper? And what I'd like to know is what will the consequences be for violating this policy? And I'll read the specific items, 6 and 7. Engaging in any behaviors or discussions, either directly or indirectly, with students or in the presence of a student, that are unprofessional, inappropriate, personal, unethical, illegal, immoral, or exploitative. And section 7 talks about making statements or comments, either directly or in the presence of a student, which are not age appropriate, professional, or which may be considered sexual in nature, harassing, discriminating, or demeaning. So, what are the consequences if a staff member violates one of these policies? Has the board discussed this? And so once this passes, and I hope it does pass today, what will the libraries, the school libraries, will they be in immediate violation of this for housing materials that are in direct violation of this clear language? It should be understood that any behaviors, and legal may clarify that, any behaviors would include exposing children to lurid books of a sexual nature. Knowingly exposing minors to sexually explicit material is a crime. Will librarians be put on notice that the books with graphic sexual material will now need to be removed forthwith? There should be no question as to the inappropriate nature of these materials, which have been read here at these board meetings. And these materials would have made my Babylonian ancestors, who are known to have originated the debauched fertility cults, blush. So I will yield my time for an answer from the superintendent or board members or legal counsel. What will the consequences be for violating this? And are we currently in violation of sections 6 and 7?
Dr. McAteer, will you please explain how we address investigations when violations are brought forward in a very broad sense, please?
Sure, we're addressing the item on the agenda here. This is 8A, what's the 6th consent? It's the policy development AA for maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions. This is a policy that's been reviewed with our associations, both CSCA and ODA, as well as gone through legal, and we've also looked at outside districts for language to help guide with board approval of policies that will direct employees' behaviors. This is really geared for helping define what we have for appropriate employee actions. When an employee violates a board policy, we follow contract language, which includes due process. It includes an investigation that is thorough. And with that, we follow, most importantly, Ed Code. Ed Code has very specific provisions that we follow when it comes to types of discipline. Every case is different. This is a hypothetical question, but in cases where employees are found guilty of this, they can lead to a variety of disciplinary action, up to and including dismissal and a review with CTE for credential revoke. So it really is a broad question, but it's one that's very defined in HR policy, and one that Ed Code explicitly has a due process defined as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next speaker, Joseph Kander. Item 8A, Joseph, item 5A has been pulled from the agenda.
I'm not surprised that 5A was removed from the agenda, because clearly you all are trying to take away our freedom of speech. And I want you all to know that you will have to answer to God for trying to do that. I want you all to understand that what you guys are in a very serious position. You guys have been voted in to help the students, and we as members of the public, including myself and my fellow believers in Jesus Christ as our Savior, we do want you guys to understand that you have to answer to God. I don't have to answer for you, but I just want you to know that you don't need to take that lightly, and you need to consider, at least reconsider, what happened at the last meeting. I do want to take a minute to address, even though it has been pulled from the agenda, that at the last meeting, Ms. Beacon over here, our VP of the board, decided to admit, and literally was caught in the act of admitting that you guys do not want to address people who have a disagreement with your agenda. And yes, it is an agenda whether you choose to admit it or not. And we are going to continue to fight, and we are going to continue to stand on truth. So moving on, item 8 is something I never thought I would actually see on this agenda with this board. It's actually very important that we need to make sure that student and staff interactions are taken seriously. We definitely need to make sure that interactions between students and staff remain professional and that they remain appropriate. And there should not be talks or conversations held about gender, immoral, or inappropriate content between adults and young children, and Mr. Hanish has already addressed the importance of that within the library system. Immoral and sexual conversations should never happen outside of interactions between children and their own parents. I think it's important that students and staff focus on why they are in a school environment. The adults are there to teach and support the kids, while the kids are there to build friendships, learn, and gain knowledge and wisdom to prepare themselves for a very bright future in a very competitive and difficult world. I encourage that this item 8A should be passed to hold the staff in this district accountable to interacting correctly with the students moving forward and to keep their personal and inappropriate agendas to themselves while performing their duties to provide the children a great educational experience.
Next speaker, Beth Baum, item 8A.
Trustees and Superintendent Vitale. I am as well speaking on 8A, items 6 and 7, so I'm not going to repeat what the two previous speakers spoke about. My concern is with the library, I did the proper submitting to the school board, the district. You have a committee that looks at books. I submitted one called Fun Home. I was going to distribute the pictures of a woman going down on a woman, but there are minors here. I got the letter back, and it says that the committee followed the Miller test, which is Miller versus California, which has to do with pornography, etc., which has to do with adult pornography. They use that test to guide them in deciding whether or not this book stays on campus at the high schools, and it stays. So how is that possible? And you're not allowed to look at this book again for 12 months. So not until June of next
Yeah,
year.
we're gonna go back to again that we're staying on agendized items. So you're talking about 8A, and so you're talking about a specific item specifically at this point?
It is making statements or comments either directly in the presence of students. So if a student picks up a book, which actually happened at one of your schools, and the parent isn't here tonight, to go pick up a book, and he brought it home, and it had to do with a man raping a boy, and he said, "Mom, what is this?"
But 8A is not about library books.
It is about the teacher talking to the child about a book that they pick up in your library. I am all for the book being in the public library where the student, did you cut me off?
No.
Where the student is with the parents. I have no problem with that. In fact, I actually enjoyed the book Fun Home. I would take out the pictures of the board. If I distributed this now, I would be violating the law. I applaud you for implementing this policy, but I think you really need to now look at the books that are in your library. And I have more to submit. Thank you.
Here's Todd Madison, items 7A and 8A.
All right, thank you. So limiting the time we're so graciously allowed to speak to 3 minutes to the entire agenda is the clearest way a board who doesn't care about parents and kids can say, we don't care about parents and kids. The words that periodically come out of your mouths claiming to value parent feedback are apparently lies. Coincidentally, the district has now stopped live streaming meetings when you don't want parents to know what's happening with the education of your kids.
Are we back to agenda 7A and 8A, correct? We're speaking on those items currently, right?
We will do that.
Okay, that's what you're supposed to be speaking on in 3 minutes
Yes.
for 8A and 7A, sir.
Item 5A is not on the agenda apparently anymore, but it's.
You asked for 7A and 8A. Please speak on those two.
I asked for 5A as well.
5A has been pulled.
Yes. So during item 7C last meeting, Mike made a motion to move non-agenda comments to the beginning of meetings. Thanks for that. But after being seconded, it was totally ignored without a vote or any mention in the minutes. Fortunately, we have an audio recording posted on the Parent Association Facebook page. It's all there if you'd like to hear it. That's why we're recording this meeting. So I'm sure the community would have more to say about this, but it's impossible to say much in the few seconds we're so graciously allowed. Given the board's disdain for parent input, I will move on. Item 7A, unaudited actuals. We spent $281 million on education last year, and the actual academic performance got worse. That's what the facts say. Those are facts. I'm sure the community would have more to say about this, but it's impossible to say much in a few seconds that we're so graciously allowed. Given the board's disdain for parent input, I'll move on. So item 7C, issuing $50 million in bonds. That may be chump change to our financially incompetent board, but a pretty significant expense to the rest of us. I'm sure the community would have more to say about this, but it's impossible to say much in the
Okay,
few
so I'm going to ask you one more time, 7A and 8A.
I said 7C too, didn't I? No, sorry about that. Okay, so we'll move on to item 8A. Maintaining appropriate adult-student interaction. Here's where we do what Mike doesn't want to hear, speaking out on the issue, an issue parents have consistently spoken out on at many meetings, not because they want to, but because the district continues to ignore parents and do whatever they want anyway. Paragraph 3 says adults are not to intrude into students' emotional boundaries. That sounds like a great policy. People here have supported it. I do too. Most children figure out whether they're boys or girls when mommy potty trains them. Is implying that mommy lied to them, not crossing their emotional boundaries? I'm sure the community would have more to say about this, but it's impossible to say much in the few seconds we're so graciously allowed. Given the board's disdain for parent input, I will move on. So I hope you had a good party after the last meeting, celebrating the fact that you no longer have to listen to anyone. When are you going to propose legislation that simply gets rid of the Brown Act entirely so you can lock the doors and not have to deal with the public at all? Thank you.
Victoria Mariani, item 8A.
The revisions on this agenda item were done very well. I just have a small concern about number 8. Quote, maintaining personal contact with a student that has no legitimate educational purpose by phone, letter, electronic communications, or other means without including the student's parent, guardian, or the principal. I have had many students who email me from time to time to ask how I'm doing or to share with me how they're doing. These communications are through district email, but they don't necessarily have a specific educational purpose. They are friendly and appropriate communications that occur based on relationships that I've built with students over the years. They are not CC'd to the student's parents or to the principal, but they are definitely available for district leadership or my principal to review if needed. My point is that OUSD cannot preach about the importance of social emotional health and community schools and then expect teachers to sever relationships with students immediately upon them leaving our classrooms at the end of the year. I wholeheartedly agree in keeping students safe, and I believe that teachers are responsible for maintaining appropriate relationships with students, whether they are current students or past students. But let's think about what we are saying here. Let's not throw away the baby with the bathwater. Instead, we should remain vigilant in reminding teachers to always keep students' best interests at heart and remain professional in their interactions with all students, past and present.
Thanks, Lisa. Boston, Item 8A.
Okay, pick it up, can you hear me? All right, good evening. My name is Scott Boston. I am an Oceanside resident, a business owner, and I'm the father of two boys, ages 11 and 6. One of them goes right here to Chavez Middle School, and the other goes to Libby Elementary. When my oldest was 6 and went to Libby, they sent home a paper telling us that they were going to teach my son where the anus and vulva were located. Luckily, us and other parents got together to stop the abuse and sexualization of my 6-year-old son and other children. This is my oldest son's first year at Chavez. And on the very first day, when a child is at his or her most vulnerable moments, one of his teacher's first words were her name, that she was non-binary, and what that meant. They then had to go around the class, say their names, and what their preferred pronouns were. My son was uncomfortable with the situation, and he texted me to come pick him up immediately. When we learned of this teacher's behavior, we were appalled and instructed our son to tough it out the next day because maybe things would be different. We were wrong. Over the coming days, this teacher would show slides of anti-racism, transphobia, and the like. She would end each class by having them stand in a circle and say their names and pronouns. And this is just the first 4 days of school. The school tried to blow this off as a getting to know you period, and reluctantly changed my son's class after a meeting with us where they tried to convince us that this situation was okay. As a parent, I feel that teachers' sexual preference has nothing to do with my son learning things like history. I also feel that my son's sexual preference is between my son and his parents and not other adults. Not so long ago, this type of actions were considered a crime against children. So please explain to me why they are okay now. I was never asked if I agreed with any of these practices or behaviors. There needs to be uniform change across the board concerning these practices. And y'all are creating more protective parents. And the only way for us to protect our children from your abuse is to come out to your jobs.
Okay, I'll call for the vote for general consent at this time. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have a first.
I'll second the motion.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 6A, approval of class specification revision office assistant. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Board President. HR has been working continually on an ongoing project to review and update all of our class specifications in the classified world and employees. We have a list there. Items A through H are updated and approved and reviewed job descriptions that are presented for the board for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve A through H as one vote, since we haven't had any public comment on them. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I just wanted to ask a quick question. I just want to make sure that ODA and CSE were consulted on all of these job descriptions.
Yes, thank you. We go through an extensive process where it mostly involves with CSEA, so all the members of the particular employee family have opportunities for input several times. This is just a revision for the job descriptions that reflects the actual work that's conducted. So that process goes through. It's also reviewed with CSEA leadership. It goes through the Personnel Commission and then for board final approval.
And that applies to all of A through H, you're saying?
Correct, all those items have gone through that same process.
Great.
Alright, okay, so we'll go
A through H.
Thank you. Okay.
for approval for A through H. We have a first and a second to make A through H one vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, in favor for no. Have 5-0 vote. For 6I, approval revision to confidential salary schedule. Staff presentation, please.
HR recently did a survey in the county and found that for this particular group, the salary schedule was far below the mean average. So for board consideration, we've updated the salary schedule for the confidential employees' salaries.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? None? 5-0, please. We will now move forward to 7A, presentation and approval of annual financial statement 2022-2023 unaudited actuals. Presentation, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. I'm pleased to share the unaudited actuals for the 22-23 school year. So as a look back, the unaudited actuals represent the final financial status of the district for the previous fiscal year. The presentation will compare the final unaudited actuals to the estimated actuals, which were presented when the revised budget was adopted in June of 2023. Next slide. This presentation will compare the estimated actuals with unaudited actuals. These include changes to revenue and expenditures, general fund comparison, components of the ending fund balance, the multi-year projections, and lastly, we will examine actions to ensure fiscal solvency. Next slide. Here you will see the differences between the estimated actuals presented in June of 2023 and the unaudited actuals in September of 2023. Revenue decreased just over $18 million, and expenses were also decreased significantly by $72 million, much of that being in restricted. The net change resulted in just over $44 million. The beginning fund balance increased slightly due to an adjustment from last year. The ending fund balance increased by $56 million. This is due to utilizing COVID funds to offset general fund expenditures, reduction in district contributions to RRMA and special education, a decrease in the required reserve amount, and a decrease in contracted services for projects not completed prior to June 30th. Because there was a decrease in expenditures, this resulted in a decrease in the 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. In the next slide, we will highlight where we saw increases and changes in our revenue. The first one is our LCFF. Here we saw an increase of funding of over $2 million. This is due to the prior year adjustments, revised P2, which is attendance for the second period. In federal, state, and local revenue, we have examples of sources for these funds listed in the far right-hand column. The funds in red represent funds that have been received but have not all been spent. The amount that has been received but is unspent is subtracted out of the revenue in the unaudited actuals. It is then added back into the restricted budget for the 23-24 school year. Overall, there was a change of $18 million in revenue. Next slide. Here we have changes in expenses. This is where we see the $72 million. For certificated, the increase of $1 million in certificated salaries represents a portion of the 22-23 summer school. For classified, there was a slight increase of just for classified salaries due to budgeted extra hours for work performed during summer school. In benefits, we saw a decrease in the cost of benefits because less total salaries were used than were budgeted due to vacancies that were not filled throughout the school year. For books and supplies, this reflects unspent grants and a decrease in district department and site discretionary budgets. For example, we have the Arts and Music Instructional Block Grant, the Learning Recovery Block Grant, community schools. When we do receive grants and we don't spend them, we never spend mostly our grants all in 1 year. Typically, they're multi-year grants, so you'll see them sitting in our budget because we don't expend them all at once.
I have a question. It's okay. Since you're not spending them, and the governor has said that he wants the money back to all the different districts, how do we protect that?
Correct. Initially, we were providing an allocation for both of those grants that I mentioned. He did pull back the money, but then the money was provided again to the districts. We're very conservative initially in how we rolled out the grant, so we never spent all of the money. So when the money was taken back, it really didn't impact us because we hadn't spent it. So when we got the money back from the governor, it wasn't quite as much, it was pretty close. And so what we do is we look at the duration of the grant and we plug in what we're going to be using for that. So let's say it's going to be instructional materials. We look at that over the years of the grant, and then if, for instance, the governor were to pull back, say $4 million on the learning recovery block grant, I would look at that $4 million and in the out years where we then wouldn't plan on spending that, and then what other grants or other revenue could we then apply to that purpose. Say it's a service that we're using, it could be instructional materials that we're buying. So we always want to look at the furthest out years when you plan your grant, taking those and reallocating them for any reason your funding is pulled back.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking about changes in expenses. I know everybody was following along, so we'll go to textbook purchases for 22-23. We're not received, we're still on that one, yeah. We're not received prior to the end of the year. This actual expenditure will be in the 23-24 school year. For services and operating expenses, we saw savings in services and operating expenses from discretionary budgets and budgeted services. Capital outlay and other outgo, there was a decrease in expenditures for furniture and equipment over $5,000. So that came to a total reduction of just over almost $73 million, much of it being in the restricted. Next slide. Here we have the components of the ending fund balance. So how I organize this is, we put the top is the estimated actuals, and it goes unaudited actuals if we're moving from left to right, and then the difference is in the far column. We often look at an MYP in 3 columns too, so this is not an MYP, this is the difference in the far right-hand column. So your ending fund balance is on top, and then I have a red line, and so now you have the components of what makes up that money. So if we're looking in our center column, we're on the unaudited actuals. So we have $101 million, as Ms. Ortega had referenced earlier. And of that, so where does that money go? For non-spendables, we always have money set aside in stores, revolving cash, prepaid expenses. Restricted funds, so those are your titles, your Medi-Cal, your lottery, other grants, we have $54 million, and that's why I mentioned a lot of it is there. Then we have the reserve for economic uncertainties, that's $8.4 million. That's always dependent on your expenditures. And so then that leaves you with $37.8 million. That's your adjusted fund balance. So you always have 3% in your reserve for economic uncertainty. So anything over 3% up to 10% goes into your assigned. And so of that $37 million, $19 million is assigned. We have that designated for employee compensation and declining enrollment mitigation. And the rest, anything over and above 10% goes into your committed. And so that will be adjusted as we move into negotiations. So we'll see a shift in this when we meet again in December to talk about more exciting budget information. So, next slide. So now we go to the multi-year projections. And so this is, next slide, this is not just reading from left to right, but it's looking at our out years. So right away you can see in the far right, in 25, 26, we have some numbers in red. So that means that we have, that's our net change in fund balance. So we have deficit spending. So you see it here, we have the revenues. They remain fairly consistent for the first 3 years, then we have expenses coming in. From 23-24 to 24-25, you just see a slight increase of 3%, but we actually have some one-time monies that we're utilizing to keep that more stable, and then that's why you see in 24-25 to 25-26 on the line of expenses, we go from 276 to 284, and now we're deficit spending, but we also were in 24-25 because you see that we went from positive 4.4 in the net change fund balance, drops down to 790,000. Now we are officially in the red. So over the next 3 years, that's 12 million of deficit spending that we're doing. And that will eat into your assignments and your commitments as well. So then you see the beginning fund balance remains between 101 and 106 over the next 3 years. Your ending fund balance does start to drop off more significantly in 25-26 because we have restricted funds that are decreasing. And then you have your reserve for economic uncertainties. And right now we don't have any additional reductions to maintain the reserve. Next slide. Okay, here we have our multi-fund balances when we're looking at the components of the ending fund balance. Here we have the ending fund balance moves in proportion to our expenditures. For the non-spendables, this stays consistent, we budget for it. And then we have restricted funds are made up of mostly categoricals and one-time monies. You see that go from 60 million to 58 to 56. This could definitely change, restricted funds change based on what legislation is coming down the pipe, so that really can adjust. Then we have our reserve for economic uncertainty. That's always based on your expenditures. And then again, we have our assigned funds and we have our committed funds. Here it looks like you're getting your assigned and you're committed every year, but we actually treat these like one-time monies. And so once you spend that 19 million in assigned, it's not going to magically appear in 24, 25, and 25, 26. If you were to give compensation, then what you would do is you take that money and you would spread it out over the next few years. And so I just want to make sure I make that clear that assigned and committed are one-time monies for this year. They're not in each outgoing year. If we don't spend them at all, then they'll certainly be there. But if we do spend them, then they won't be there in the out years. Next slide. And then actions to ensure fiscal solvency, continue collaborating with the San Diego County Office of Education. We closely monitor student enrollment and adjust staffing accordingly. We reduce staff as funding timelines expire. For example, we have our title funds, our grant funds. We don't have anyone tied to our COVID funding right now. Evaluate health and welfare costs. Identify possible reductions in contracted services. Prepare the 23-24 first interim financial report coming soon in December. And continue to incorporate updated revenue and expenditures as they become available for current and multi-year projections. And that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Well, I mean, it's very thorough, the knowledge of what they are, the actuals. I move approval.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 7B, approval resolution number 9, 2324, adopting the appropriations again, limit 2022-23 actual and 2023-24 estimated. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, President Alvarez. The CAN initiative places limits on the growth of expenditures for publicly funded programs. OUSD is required to submit the appropriations limit computation to the San Diego County Office of Education annually. The computations reflect a recalculation of the 22-23 appropriations limit and the preliminary 23-24 appropriations limit. In either case, does the district exceed the appropriations limit? It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt CAN limit resolution number 9.
Second.
Thank you. I have a first and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0. 7C, approval resolution number 10, 2324, authorizing the issuance and the terms of sale of not to exceed $50 million of bonds of Oceanside Unified School District by negotiated sale pursuant to one or more bond purchase agreements, prescribing the sale of said bonds, approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more bond purchase agreements, a paying agent agreement, a continuing disclosure certificate, an investment management agreement, and an official statement for sale bonds, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents relating to said bonds. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you. The resolution authorizing the sale of a second series of new money bonds under the district's Measure W authority, which shall be used for school construction and modernization projects authorized under such proposition, and accomplishes several actions. It establishes the broad parameters for the sale of such bonds. For example, that bonds will be sold by negotiated sale in the amount not to exceed $50 million for a term not to exceed 30 years, and at an effective interest rate not to exceed 8%. It approves certain documents on file and available for review at the district office, and it describes the specific structure of the bonds. Approval of the resolution is just one part of a financing process that will conclude with the deposit of bond funds in early October. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 10.
Any questions?
No, this will get us going on our next phase of renovations in our campuses. I move approval.
I second. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 7D, approval resolution number 11, 2324, authorizing the issuance of and terms of not to exceed $9 million of refunding bonds of Oceanside Unified School District by a negotiated sale pursuant to one or more bond purchase agreements, prescribing the sale of said bonds, approving the form of and authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more bond purchase agreements, a paying agent agreement, a continuing disclosure certificate, an escrow agreement, and an official statement of first said bonds, and authorizing the execution of necessary documents relating to said bonds. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, President Alvarez. Issuing refunding bonds is similar to refinancing a home mortgage. The district issues new bonds and uses the proceeds of the new financing to redeem existing bonds and to pay related underwriting costs and upfront costs of issuance. It's relatively common for California school districts to issue refunding bonds in connection with new money bonds or when savings are sufficient to justify a standalone transaction. In this case, the district expects to generate significant present value savings on not to exceed 9 million refunding bond transactions. The term of repayment on the new bonds will not exceed the term of repayment of the bonds to be refunded. We anticipate an estimated $5.8 million in savings for the taxpayers as a result of the refunding. The resolution authorizes the sale of refunding bonds and accomplishes several actions. It establishes the broad parameters for the sale of such bonds. It approves certain documents on file and available for review at the district office, and it describes the specific structure of the bonds. Approval of the resolution is just one part of the financing process that will conclude with the deposit of bond funds in early October to pay off prior bonds. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 11.
I'll make a motion to approve this. Again, we'll advance our bond construction program and approve all of our schools targeted on the next round of funding that are set to happen in the next year or two.
This is a lower interest rate, correct?
Yes.
Right, we're refinancing, they're called CABs, which are basically bad bond loans, and so what we're able to do is take these high interest loan and able to reduce it to not to exceed 8%. We'll save about $5.8 million for our taxpayers.
Okay. So, what I'm thinking about, probably when they redid their refunding, there was no cap, and as a consequence, it was a multi-billion-dollar fiasco. What parameters have we set? What are we doing in terms of we don't get caught in something like that?
We have at 8% as well, not to exceed 8%, and that it'll term out at the same pace. So it won't get away from us. It's not like we're refinancing bad debt forever at an interest rate that's unpredictable. It'll stay at 8%. Not to exceed, it could go lower.
Thank you.
I'll make the second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 8, policy development. A, adoption of VP 4119.24/4219.24/4319.24. Maintaining appropriate adult-student interactions.
Thank you, Board President. We know that it's the board's desire to provide a positive and safe environment for the well-being of our students. The board expects all adults with whom students may interact with in school-related activities, including employees, independent contractors, and volunteers, to maintain the highest professional and ethical standards in their interactions with students both within and outside the educational setting. This policy sets such boundaries and provides definition for inappropriate conduct.
Now, is there going to be any training with this that goes along for staff at this point?
We do have training through the Keenan modules already. There's a sexual harassment module that's required for employees to take.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Where will the complaint process be available to families or staff if anyone has to make a complaint? Where is that information available for forms or whatever the process is?
Right, all the districts have that. It would typically come as a complaint against an employee. So we would follow a board policy for complaints against an employee and process it through there. We also have Title IX sexual harassment, so it depends on the situation. There are different avenues. The administrator would determine what violation occurred and then would follow board policy that would guide us through that.
So we would then make sure that they would go to their administrator. That would be the key thing at this point.
I serve on the Commission for Teaching Credentialing, and part of my responsibility is the fact that teachers who, for whatever reason, get in trouble, either because of being incompetent teachers or two-handed teachers, and the consequence is that, of course, they're fired and they lose their credential. But the glitch is that we have administrators who either they don't do the paperwork properly, or they won't do the paperwork, or they quote unquote want to abstain. How do we encourage administrators to follow through with their job in terms of that? We talk about training teachers, but I think we need to also train.
Great point. The training extends beyond just the employees. It would there'd be a different type of level training for administrators. And so for the administrators, they go through a comprehensive training every year. HR works with our administrators on providing the types of violations that occur and the steps that would be taken. They also know to include HR. So anytime there's a serious allegation, HR is part of the process. It's not just administrators acting on their own. They have the support, not only of HR, but our legal support as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We will now move to public comments on non-agendized items. Just a reminder, and during the portion of the meeting of agenda is titled Public Comments on Non-Agenda Items, individual speakers will be allowed up to 3 minutes total to address the board on non-agenda items. However, the total time for public input may be limited to 20 minutes per item or topic, while the total time per speaker for a given topic may be slightly reduced. In certain circumstances, all persons wishing to address the board will have a meaningful opportunity to do so during the meeting. An individual may only turn in one public comment card for public comments on non-agenda items per board meetings, which may be submitted at any time until the public comments on non-agenda items has been closed. If the topic you listed on your off-agenda public comment card best relates to an item on the agenda, please complete a public comment card for public comments on agenda items prior to the completion of the public comments on agenda items. Again, just a reminder of your norms to use respectful language, be respectful of all speakers, do not cause disruptions, and adhere to time limits. Thank you.
We have 11 comments. First 3 speakers will be Mark Hall, Joseph Cantor, and Beth Farnham. In that order, please.
Good evening to the board. My name is Mark Anthony Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Management Agency. For President Alvarez, to the board, Superintendent Vitale, to your group. I've been on a 20 board meeting tour since June 16th. The goal is to come out and to meet you. I have to tell you all, I confess, I Googled all of you. I know you do the computers, and I read your bios, but this is my chance to see you face to face and say hello to you. Again, I'm with Oscar Van Way, who's our Director of Community Development, and our program is called the Manhood Adolescent Behavior Challenge. I like to tell everybody there was an epidemic before there was a pandemic. The epidemic is there's a lot of young men who don't have what my mother would call home training. And a lot of the training they're getting is in the street. And the problem with that is that they bring it to school, and let me just say I'm a big fan of school teachers. They do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I respect them highly. We work with young men, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade that have social and emotional learning deficits. Add on to that, learning loss from COVID. If they would ever recover the learning, I do not know. And they also are dealing with what I call post-COVID anxiety. We have a 100-point curriculum. We deal with anger management, learning styles, how to live in a multicultural society, sibling rivalry. We have something called Man Up. What does it mean to be a man? So we basically supply what you may call a soft intervention. Our basic goal is to get the kid to like coming to school. Once he comes to school, we try to let the kid say, hey, you need to choose to behave yourself. We believe in age-appropriate behavior. A 6th grader anywhere in the world is a 6th grader. And then we believe in individual appropriate behavior is what the child brings from his home. And so that's the foundation we work on with non-discrimination. And so we come to schools,
and we present our program, and something wonderful happens. USD just did a case study on our program. Every boy that attended our program for a year, his grades went up 27%. The good news is that the discipline went down 85%. That means no calls to mama. Hard-working parents don't have to get off of work to deal with a kid who's acting up. He loves coming to school. And one thing we learned with the young men is that they do need men in their lives. They need to have man talk. I was fortunate I had two parents. They were married 64 years, and with two great parents, I was still a rascal. My favorite saying is that I used to be a boy. Boys, they're a little different from girls. Sometimes our frontal lobes are just made out of rubber. We just don't get it. But we believe that if the family holds on to the boy, the community holds on to the boy, the school holds on to the boy, he'll have a chance.
Thank you.
God, I can go on and on. I'm so excited to be here, but thank you all.
Thank you.
And if I may, I apologize for the superintendent and board president. This is unusual, saying you're unified down. It feels very family.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
That was great stuff. Thank you for speaking. First, I want to start today by bringing up the day that we just went through yesterday. As many of us know, yesterday was 22 years since the most tragic terrorist attack that took place in U.S. history. That was also the last time this country was truly united as one. This country now is more divided than it has ever been, and that has to change, and it starts with our schools, and it starts with the students in the schools. Personal agendas like sexualizing children should be taken out of schools so that kids can make their own decisions and allow their parents to do their jobs as parents in raising their children. Your job is not to raise kids, it is to teach them. Next, why are there no cameras here tonight? It's because you members of the board are scared. You are scared of the truth whether you choose to admit it or not. Just like the Midianites running confused in the book of Judges, running from Gideon and his army because though they were small in numbers, they were bold for God. Vitality, you stand against God and his morals, and therefore you want to try and stop his truth from spreading. But I assure you, myself and my fellow believers in the room saved by Jesus Christ will continue to make sure that God's truth is spread, and since Vitality has taken office, God has been taken out of our schools. I have a family member, also a former student of this very district, and under your leadership, Vitality, he has gone on to become a sex addict, a drug addict, and now he lives with his girlfriend in an unmarried relationship. That is what happens when we lack godly leadership in our schools. In closing, I want to just share that I feel these kids need to be taught again what it means to come together as one, like we did 22 years ago today, without personal agendas. And that starts with fixing what is wrong with this district right now. And that is why I am here tonight, is to right what has been made wrong.
Dr. Vitale and board. I was at the last meeting. It was quite exciting. Actually super giddy about it. Because I have been down the rabbit hole with what's going on in school boards across the nation. And no one has believed me about what the agenda is. And you showed your true colors. You don't want to talk to parents at all. That's why you got rid of the live stream. Most school districts live stream. Their AV department does it. Vista Unified does it. I'm sure they would help you out. What does that do? It involves parents that can't be here when you have two working parents and they've got little kids at home. You can bring them here, but it's not really appropriate all the time. And it's not easy with dinner and homework and then school the next day. Stacy, you said it. You have the right. We can choose to see you or not to see you. Mike, you guys bring up the three things all the time. Same old three things. The one that I have brought up, and I have done it properly, didn't work. And Gibbons, I saw you verbally assault a citizen here.
Okay, we're not going to be picking on people, so we're here for your public comment to address the board.
Okay.
on
So I
Thank you.
emailed the El Camino principal last year in regards to ECTV because of the book Fun Home and how it was portrayed in their newscast that it was a great book, and us book banning parents were up here banning books. I like half the books that they said we wanted to ban. I asked the principal to give me a call back so that they could get our side. I spoke to Dr. Jordy Sparks. I haven't received any information since. I called and emailed again, and the secretary of the principal said that they talked to you and the subject was over. So you want one side, you don't want to talk to parents. I have spoken to many parents outside of this wall. That's why I pulled my child out of school and we homeschooled him. I'm not going to have CRT pushed down, disrespecting the flag, what are you doing for Constitution Day? Do you know when Constitution Day is? Because of that is why we are here today. So Sunday is Constitution Day. You should be celebrating Constitution Day on the following day, Monday, in every school in Oceanside. You raise the flag. It is the right thing to do in the United States of America. Thank you.
Madison, Peter McBride, and Michael Richardson.
All right, thank you very much. So at the last meeting, the district took one of the most authoritarian steps I've ever seen in any district, cutting off the ability of parents to provide meaningful input to the district. In the Coast News, their communication director says the change honors requests from the public to move public comment to the beginning of the meetings. You may not be aware of this, but I watch these meetings. No one has ever asked to move on-agenda comment to the beginning of the meetings. Saying that to justify the suppression of parents is an out-and-out lie. Mr. Benz is paid almost $170,000 a year to lie for the district, so I trust it doesn't bother him that much. Prior to the last meeting, a request was made to put an item on the agenda discussing moving non-agenda comment to the beginning of meetings. I can see where that might be confusing to someone who doesn't understand how board meetings work. The superintendent's response was this was already going to be on the agenda. Another lie, nothing like that was on the agenda. This lie by someone who takes over $350,000 a year from the education of our kids to provide a mediocre education and lies to us as well. During discussions, Stacy noted no one speaks at public hearings as justification. I think we've been at the same meetings, but she apparently missed the hours of on-agenda comments. Then we heard that limiting comments somehow benefits the public. That's not a joke, really. This is from someone who has told us how often she values public input. More lies. Mike actually forgot the public input suppression agenda for a minute and made a motion to move non-agenda comments to the beginning of meetings. Thank you for that. It was seconded, then vanished without a vote. Clear violation of the rules, but our district and board don't really care. And I'm sure they'd lie about it if we didn't have a recording. For anyone interested, that recording is available on the Facebook Parent Association group, where we'll be posting future meeting recordings. You can email me, info@sanDiegoSchools.net. We're recording over there with a 7-year-old Android phone and a garage sale tripod. I'm sure the superintendent doesn't want to interfere with the $15,000 a year raise she recently gave herself, so I'd be happy to donate the setup if you can't afford it. No restrictions have been placed on union speech. The speech we heard this morning or earlier today was 5.5 minutes. Only parent speech. It's once again clear what our board values, and it's not the interest of parents and kids. The last few years have seen a tremendous decline in enrollment. The parents of Oceanside have figured out you're not providing the education they want, and you don't want to listen to suggestions from them, and you certainly don't want parents to see what you're doing. You're forcing parents to pull their kids. They have no other options. I'll be discussing that at tomorrow's city council meeting because it's important to the city as well. Good work by parents who understand the importance of kids' education. Too bad our school district is in denial. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Peter McBride. I'm impressed. I'm from Los Angeles originally, did most of my teaching up there. I'm used to a school board that doesn't even look at you when you're talking. Wonderful to see this. I retired after 30 years of teaching and working as a private school administrator. And I have 2 credentials and my master's degree. I'm a Vietnam veteran, author of a nonfiction young adult book, Dropping In on the Waves of Life, which is lessons in life from a surface perspective. I've been a substitute in Oceanside for 15 years now, and I substitute a few times a month. I get around all levels as far as teaching goes. By high school, what I'm seeing is when the pledge comes up, when it's time for the pledge, most classes just sit there. Nobody says it. They just sit there and watch. Most, it's not all, but most are doing that. And I'll ask the question, why do we say the pledge? And most of the times, nobody can tell me. And if I turn to a teacher and I say, why do we say the pledge? A lot of times, they really don't have much of an answer either. Everybody has a right not to say the pledge. That's part of the country. It's great. But I was talking to the principal the other day, and we did feel, hey, at least they could stand up out of respect. That would be great. But I think the real problem is our students don't know why we say the pledge. They just know we mechanically do it every day. Now, I offer my classes, when I see them, I talk about it. When I see this come up, and I say, look, there are a couple of reasons we can say the pledge. One is out of respect for the people who dedicated their lives so that you could be here today, and the people that are out there in the community protecting you, the police, your teachers, your parents, medical, all that. You do it out of respect. And another reason is it's a reminder this world of giving anything to be sitting right where you are today. And they do anything to be there. And unless we work together, we're going to lose this. And so the pledge is a reminder that we need to work together, to be together, to keep that spirit together, to keep our country. So it's my hope that as a school district, we can do some reminders, get those out there, and let them know why they're saying the pledge. And I really believe that if our students know why, they'll be more apt to participate in the pledge and certainly appreciate this country of ours. Thank you.
We have been called haters by this education establishment, the homosexual community, the teachers union, and all those who feed at the trough of the schools. I want to clear this up right now. We're good. We're not haters. We just love our kids, and we are disgusted. We are disgusted with all of you for what you've done to our schools. Hate is a crime. Disgust is not a crime. At least, not yet. It is clear that you descend into name-calling because you have no defense for your callous and corrupt management of our schools. When will we hear constructive ideas from you on how we can restore quality education to our community? Do you really think that we come to these meetings month after month, year after year, just to spread hate? Do you really think that? Mike Blessing says he disagrees with us. I'm still waiting to hear what we disagree on. Do we disagree that you have carved out much of the reading, math, and civics? You just heard about how civics is failing. You've carved out the guts of our education to make time for silly and dangerous programs like DEI and ethnic studies. Do we disagree, Mike, that the plummeting test scores are a failure and need to be addressed? Do we disagree that you have committed the district to a wasteful and unnecessary multi-million-dollar headquarters building that will not improve that will not improve education one bit, but will feed the ego of our superintendent. We do agree that there is hate in this room, but it is not coming from us.
You know that.
Next is Victoria Mariani, and Jennifer Escobar.
And will you just do me a favor and repeat her name, please? Repeat her name.
Tamara Savaggio.
So, we get together during these times to talk about things that are wrong, things that are broken, things that can be fixed. Louder. I'm not here to do that tonight, although that time's very important, and it's important to do that. I'm here to give a joy. I'm here to give a gratefulness and a thankfulness. You have a school in Oceanside called Coastal Academy. It's a public charter school. And I want you to imagine a community where every child has the opportunity not just to learn, but to thrive. Where they're not bound by a one-size-fits-all approach, but they're nurtured to explore their fullest potential. This vision isn't just a dream, it's a reality. And it's a reality for countless families in Oceanside and North County, all thanks to Coastal Academy. See, I'm a proud mama, a proud parent of two amazing children, and they found their academic haven at Coastal Academy. And today I stand before you as a representative of countless parents that literally have had their families transformed by the programs that they are offering. 3 years ago, we embarked on our journey to join Coastal Academy, as many families went looking for other opportunities. And our experience has been nothing short of transformative. My daughter, an advanced learner who has flourished and embraced the diverse opportunities that the school has offered. And I have a son who has a very complicated medical history and severe special needs, and he's also just flourishing, and he's been empowered to thrive. In our journey, what became evident was that Coastal Academy is not merely a school, but it's a catalyst for change that's needed in our community. They're pioneering a culture where collaboration between educators and parents is transcending the norm. It's fostering an environment that emphasizes both academic and personal growth. The impact of Coastal Academy extends far beyond individual families like mine. And I just wanted you to know what a good job they're doing, and I want you to continue to recognize their good work. And I want you to encourage families to have the opportunities to make other choices as all of this is going on in our community, for us to have the option to meet our children's needs. We know them best. So I just ask for your continued support for Coastal Academy and other schools that are providing these opportunities to families that are looking for different choices. Thank you.
Hi, I'm here to inform the board about the less than ideal conditions of Pablo Talk School of the Arts. My air conditioner and that of my colleague Melissa Moore has been broken for at least 15 days now. Maintenance has been to our site several times and they tell me that the air is working, but the temperature in my classroom remains 82 degrees, even at 7:15 in the evening. These are less than ideal learning conditions that would be difficult for any students to excel in. But half of my kindergarten students in my class have special needs, and the heat really exacerbates their behavioral and academic challenges, and it makes both the children and adults irritable. It feels like we're in an underdeveloped nation, and I believe that this situation is unacceptable. In addition, our school is inundated with mosquitoes, My body is riddled with bites, and many of our staff and students have bites all over their arms, legs, and even their faces. My colleagues across the hall from me in rooms 10A and B have mice. These teachers are concerned about the health of students with the presence of mouse urine and feces in their rooms. Sadly, the district sanctions the use of glue traps, which in my opinion are cruel and inhumane. If mice need to be exterminated, then at the very least, OUSD should eliminate them in the most painless and humane way possible. The delays with construction and the lack of space at our school site have been difficult for staff and students, but we really are trying to be creative, flexible, and patient. This year, like last year, TK and kindergarten classrooms across the district are receiving an increased number of students with extreme behavioral challenges. Our ed specialists need more manpower. We don't need district leaders such as Vicky Gravely, Mandy Bell, or Dr. Lovey visiting our schools to watch us teach. Kudos to Board Member Alvarez for actually working with high-need students in TK and kindergarten during her visit to Pablo Talk. I hope that the other board members and district leaders can take a page from her book and actually get something done.
Good evening. I would have a proper introduction, but I'm limited to 3 minutes, so I will go ahead with my say on what my issues are. This week, I've made a lot of noise within the district, within the city council. My name is Jennifer Esquivel. Some of you might have heard Ms. Esquivel called, Ms. Esquivel left a voicemail, Ms. Esquivel emailed, and city council did reach out to the district on my behalf as well. My concern is this: we closed an elementary school and we moved those children, those students, to another school, Liberty Lake Elementary, but we did not properly staff or fund or give the resources for that school to take in those children. 111 students, I believe, is the number that went in, and continuously every day, more children are being enrolled into this school. The lunch lines are huge. At one point, they didn't have enough lunches for all the students to be provided. We have thought about this, and some students don't have the resources to eat at home, and this is their one lunch. And what happened? The district did nothing. When I called, it was said to me, we did not know. When I called city council, we were not made aware. And everywhere that I turned, that was the same answer. We don't know, we are not aware. Our biggest problem right now is for traffic control. You have 111 more families coming in for drop-off. My family car personally got hit. It was a hit and run on campus, in the parking lot, at the drop-off. And yet we do not have security for it to be managed. So what are we waiting for? For a child to be run over? For a tragedy to happen? For us to make headlines on the news? And then say we could have done something then? Or for us to use the excuse of, we did not know. I want to use this platform to personally let you guys know we have a problem. Now I know maybe my email got disregarded, my note got thrown away, or my phone call got deleted. But now I'm personally looking at each and every one of you in the eyes and letting you guys know there is a problem. We need help with traffic control. 111 additional students and no help has been given. We have our principal there with a vest and a stop sign helping. That's not her job, and it should not be her job. She's being put at risk. That parents are upset with the situation. Who do you think they're upset at? She's the face of the school, not you guys. You guys aren't there. She is. What are we waiting for? Road rage? For something to happen tragic? And now we have to explain to her family how the district failed her, the district failed her students, and failed the parents? Your salaries do come out of taxpayers' money, and we are all paying for it. I don't think it's a lot to ask for traffic control, for you guys to give somebody to have there and have us be safe. Students, teachers, staff, faculty, and let our principals go back to what their real job is, which is not traffic control. Thank you.
Our last two speakers, Allison Manu and Jacqueline Fisher.
Good evening, Allison Mino, mother of 2 in the district. Bringing a parental rights pledge to you by the Parent Union and California Policy Center. I'd like to let everyone know here and at home that Chino Valley, Marietta, Anderson Unified, Temecula Valley, Orange Unified, and Rockland Unified are all schools in California, school districts that have adopted parental rights notifications for parents to oversee, which is the fundamental right of parents to oversee the care, custody, and control of a child. I have that here, and I'll read a couple excerpts from it. And this parental rights pledge, for instance, Nancy Licona, being that she's my representative here, I, Nancy Licona, recognize that when a child is born, the family is the primary and responsible governing body for that child. The United States Supreme Court has repeatedly declared and confirmed that parents have the fundamental liberty and pre-political rights to direct the upbringing, care, and education of their children as they see fit. The government cannot abridge, suppress, restrict, or remove parental rights without due process of law. The same rights apply to legal guardians. I agree that school teachers and administrators should be open, honest, and transparent with parents regarding all policies, information, and concerns regarding their children. Parents must be notified if a condition exists that may affect their children's health, mental health, and/or safety, including a change to their child's identity. I agree that parents should have access to their children's classroom curricula as well as academic, special, and alternative parent programs available to their children at school. That school curricula should be age-appropriate and free from political or ideological indoctrination, and that parents should have the ability to opt their children out of classroom assignments, curricula, and surveys that they deem inappropriate for their children. And so, I've only read just a couple of excerpts from this, but what do you guys think? I'm going to hand this pledge to you. And I won't hold my breath on it, but hey, give you guys a chance to look at it, and maybe one of you guys will sign it. Maybe at some point adopt a policy. What you guys think? Thank you.
I would like to state that just clarify, those are not my words.
Oh, right, no. I didn't say your words. I said as my representative.
Okay, just want to clarify because it could be misleading for people that in the audience. Just want to clarify that. And in addition, I don't know if anyone's looking at, but all of those districts are currently in a lawsuit because they're violating California law.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Yeah. Next speaker, please. Lawyer. But anyway, I'll still hand it to you. Again, I won't hold my breath. Yeah. What was that? Who just said that? Elton. No, this guy just said, I don't. He actually just said don't. Really? That's exactly what he just said. Little smirky guy over here. Thank you.
Be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, he really should. Next speaker. Thank you.
All you can do.
Next speaker, please.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Superintendent Vitali, President Alvarez, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I spoke last April, and I came here again, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you today again. And I come before you with a heavy heart that we're still going on the same issues. My family faces regarding my child who has a disability in our school board. Over these past few months, my family has faced a distressing inconsistency in the information provided by the school regarding my child's IEP and related services, a matter of utmost importance for students like my child. Various staff members have presented conflicting versions of the IEP. leaving us in a state of confusion and concern, a situation that affects not just my child, but we believe it's also with the kids that has disability and who depends these crucial plans. We believe that kids with an IEP, it's a lifeline for them. And it has to be diligently implemented. But in our case, there was different issues. And one of those is excluding him for most of the day from a regular classroom. Not even having an activities participated. And there's a constant rotation of team members attending my child's IEP meeting has been perplexing, further complicating the educational journey for children with disability. As of today, my child's educational journey derailed and emotional well-being in jeopardy. Where is our right as parents of children with disability to be informed and involved in decisions affecting our children's education and well-being when we just found out that he was away from other kids? We deserve transparency, collaboration, and assurance that our children's educational and emotional needs, especially with kids that have disability, needs to be met effectively and inclusively. So we request board to address this concern with utmost seriousness, recognizing the unique challenges of these children facing these difficulties, because until now, my child couldn't come back to school. And I am asking to please help us to address this concern. We evaluate the decision to limit educational opportunities for children with disabilities, ensuring they specifically get turnaround.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Fisher.
you. Thank you so much.
At this point in time, is there any other questions from the board? Thank you for all attending the meeting tonight, and we will adjourn this meeting at